Do you ever sit there and feel you wish we were in a plural relationship? The question in my head is like, are we going to try for, to live plural marriage again?
He could sell the 2-acre piece he and Robyn on and the 5 acres.
There's a few things that I will fight for, and this is one of them.
I'm not trying to rip you off, Mary. That's all imagined in Janelle's head because Janelle feels like, oh, I got divorced, so I deserve something. So are you excited about this?
No, not at all.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Welcome Back to my channel. I have a feeling that Christine Brown-Woolley might be gearing up to step away from the series. Her recent book announcement, combined with the book's synopsis and the newly released trailer for the second half of Season 19, all point in that direction. While nothing has been officially confirmed yet, the signs are pretty telling. Christine and David seem to be moving on, and I wouldn't be surprised if this season marks their exit. I don't know exactly how big of a role she'll play in the remaining episodes, but there are some clues worth paying attention to. For example, when the trailer dropped in February, Christine was noticeably absent for most of it. In fact, her face didn't even appear until the very end, when she was seen questioning Suki about Kody and Robyn's engagement, specifically whether or not they were intimate before marriage. That tiny moment was the only glimpse we got of her, which seems odd considering how much drama surrounds her storyline. Usually, she's at the heart of the show's most explosive moments, so for her to be nearly invisible in the trailer is definitely a red flag that her time on the show might be winding down. But let's talk about some of the other big storylines. One of the most shocking developments is Mary finally waking up to the fact that Robyn might not be as innocent as she's seemed all these years. Mary was completely taken in by Robyn's act for so long, totally manipulated, totally deceived, and now it looks like she's starting to put the pieces together. If this plays out on screen the way it's been rumored, it's going to be a huge moment for Mary. After years of blind loyalty, seeing her finally question everything could be a game changer. Then there's the ongoing battle over Coyote Pass, which remains one of the few things still tying the family together. The land dispute has been a major issue for a while, and it's clear that Kody and Robyn are trying to navigate their next steps. What's really interesting, though, is that they've apparently been entertaining the idea of adding new sister wives. Now, whether or not the show will actually cover this remains to be seen, but there's been speculation about them meeting with church leaders to discuss rejoining their old faith. Kody has even floated the idea of bringing the AUB, Apostolics, United Brethren, down to Flagstaff and using Coyote Pass as a sort of base for a new church community. It's unclear how serious these discussions were, but the fact that they happened at all raises some big questions. Robyn, despite everything, still seems to have an interest in plural marriage, which makes this even more complicated. Would she really be willing to bring new wives into the picture? And if so, what does that mean for the future of their relationship? With so many moving parts, Season 19 is shaping up to be one of the most unpredictable yet. There's drama, betrayal, shifting alliances, and unresolved tensions that could explode at any moment. Whether Christine and David are truly leaving, whether Mary finally stands up for herself, and whether Kody and Robyn go through with their rumored plans, one thing is for sure: this season is going to be packed with must-watch moments. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. Do you think Christine is done with the show? Are Kody and Robyn really considering new sister wives? And how do you think Mary's realization about Robyn will change things? I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Like what they did, but now they're trying to make it more palatable for the show. This guy, Paul, the Brethren leader they met with, would never actually appear on camera. That's just not something that would happen. But imagine if he did. Picture Kody and Robyn sitting there talking to Paul and saying something like, "Hey Paul, we were thinking we want to start our own branch of the church down here. If we recommit, repent, and prove how sorry we are, can we come back? Oh, and by the way, I need new wives because Robyn says she's going to leave me if I don't get her more sister wives." Can you imagine if that kind of conversation actually made it onto the show? The public would never accept it. So, instead, they probably recreated the discussion, keeping it private between just the two of them. But aside from all these other storylines, there's absolutely nothing about Christine. Nothing at all. And that's surprising, considering how big of a role she's played in past seasons. So I started looking into Christine's new book. It's set to be released in hardcover on September 2nd. And get this, on the cover, she's wearing red. That's interesting because Warren Jeffs, the infamous FLDS leader, absolutely hated the color red. I'm not sure if the AUB had the same stance, but red is such a bold color choice, symbolizing power, passion, and maybe even defiance. Even more intriguing, her Aunt Kristen's book also features a red cover. Could that be a coincidence? Or is there a deeper message behind it? According to the synopsis, the book is described as a groundbreaking and heartfelt memoir that details Christine's journey of growing up in polygamy, struggling within that life, and ultimately finding the strength to walk away. It highlights how she had always dreamed of a picture-perfect family, happy children, a loving husband, and a close-knit sisterhood of wives. Raised in Utah in a devout polygamist family, Christine understood that her life wasn't conventional, but she still cherished the large, bustling household she was raised in. When she married Kody in 1994 as his third wife, she thought she had finally found the big, loving family she had always imagined. Then, in 2010, when TLC's Sister Wives first aired, Christine saw it as an opportunity, a chance to share her story, connect with others, and maybe even help redefine what polygamy looked like in the modern world. Shining a light on the brighter side of polygamy, the show highlighted the helping hands, lively discussions, and deep devotion these families had for one another. But at the same time, the cameras exposed a much darker reality. In this candid and deeply personal tell-all, Christine shares for the first time the journey that led her away from polygamy and the bold new path she is forging to live apart from everything she's ever known. Moving, genuine, and insightful. This book is a unique and powerful exploration of Christine's experiences, both in and beyond her time as a sister wife in the public eye. Interestingly, the first version of the synopsis didn't even mention polygamy. Instead, it framed her story as a departure from the Mormon Church. Now, the language has shifted to focus more on her leaving polygamy specifically. But then, at the very end, it describes her story as a powerful tour de force about her. Time in and beyond the spotlight. That wording feels intentional, almost as if it's signaling that Christine is done with the sister-wife identity altogether. She's moving forward, carving out her own path, and redefining what life looks like on her terms. What I think is happening here, and what this book will likely cover, is how the cameras unveiled a harsh truth for Christine. Before the show, she only saw what Kody allowed her to see. She wasn't privy to the full dynamics of his relationships with the other wives. She didn't witness the affectionate gestures, the intimate conversations, or the private discussions about their future. She had no way of knowing what their date nights were like, or how he treated their children compared to hers. But once the cameras started rolling, it became impossible to ignore. She saw everything in real time, and it changed her perspective entirely. Before the show, their lifestyle allowed for a certain level of compartmentalization. Even though they lived together in the Leahy house, each wife had her own apartment. If they didn't want to interact, they simply didn't have to. They could exist within their separate spaces, managing their own households without much interference. Sometimes they all gathered together, but other times they functioned more independently. The show, however, forced everything into the open. The relationships that had once been somewhat isolated from each other were now on full display. Christine could no longer turn a blind eye to Kody's favoritism or the growing disconnect in their marriage. With this book, it seems like Christine is ready to lay it all out there, not just about Kody, but about the entire structure of polygamy and how it shaped her life. She's telling the story in her own words, unfiltered and unapologetic. And judging by this latest synopsis, she's making it clear that she's not just stepping away from Kody. She's stepping away from the entire world she was raised in. This isn't just about leaving a marriage. It's about reclaiming her identity and finally living life on her own terms. They stayed in their apartments, living their own lives, keeping to themselves, and avoiding the reality of Kody's other relationships. In their separate spaces, they could mentally remove themselves from the dynamic of sharing a husband. They didn't have to think about Kody's interactions with the other wives or how he was treating them differently. The Lehi house was unique in that they lived under one roof, but that arrangement only lasted about 4 years. Before that, their living situations had varied. Mary, Janelle, and Christine had all lived together at one point, but there were also times when they lived entirely separate lives. After leaving Lehi, they never lived together in the same way again. When Christine got a first-hand look at Kody's relationships through the lens of the show, it was eye-opening. Suddenly she could see everything, the way he interacted with his other wives, the dynamics at play, and the emotional connections he had with them. This shift made her realize what was missing in her own marriage. It's much like how we, as viewers, could observe Robyn's influence, Janelle's independence, or Mary's struggles. For Christine, having that perspective allowed her to analyze the relationships in ways she never had before. It wasn't just about her relationship with Kody. It was about understanding how the entire family functioned and whether everyone was truly working toward the greater good, or if some were just looking out for themselves. Kody had acknowledged years ago that bringing cameras into their lives gave his wives a voice they had never had before. They were able to openly discuss their feelings, admit their jealousies, and address their insecurities. The show gave them a platform to reflect on their marriages in ways they hadn't been able to before. With this newfound ability to step back and see the whole picture, it became clear that the dynamic wasn't as harmonious as they had once convinced themselves it was. Seeing things from a complete 360-degree perspective changed everything. For any woman in that situation, it would be difficult to ignore the reality of what was happening. It's hard to continue pretending you're happy when you suddenly realize you're only getting the scraps of someone's attention and affection. And I think that's part of the darker truth Christine is alluding to. The cameras didn't just reveal these dynamics to the audience. They revealed them to the wives themselves. They could no longer ignore what was right in front of them. Christine, in particular, saw it for what it was. And once she did, there was no going back. That perspective, that realization, was likely one of the biggest factors in her decision to walk away from the marriage and the life she had known for so long. That realization, the part where she started to see that Kody was treating his other wives differently, that there were things he did for them that he wasn't doing for her, was just one piece of the puzzle. There were also the financial issues, the way resources were distributed, and the undeniable fact that he was spending nearly all of his time with Robyn. For Christine, this wasn't just about feeling left out, it was about recognizing an imbalance she could no longer ignore. And then, on top of all that, came the move to Las Vegas, which became a major turning point in her life and perspective. In a recent podcast, Christine credited the move to Vegas as being a game changer for her worldview. Before that, she had spent most of her life in a deeply insular community, surrounded almost exclusively by people from her church. The church had specific areas where members lived together, forming tight-knit, self-contained groups. Growing up in that environment meant Christine had always been taught to be wary of the outside world. She was told that people beyond their community were dangerous, that life outside polygamy was full of threats, and that staying within the faith was the only way to remain safe and righteous. But everything changed when they moved to Las Vegas. Suddenly, Christine was surrounded by people from all walks of life, and she started seeing that the world wasn't the scary, evil place she had been warned about. She met people outside her faith, interacted with diverse perspectives, and realized that so many of the fears instilled in her were unfounded. The people she had been told to fear weren't dangerous or wicked. They were kind, open-minded, and in many ways, more accepting than the community she had always known. That shift was huge for her. She began questioning not just the beliefs she was raised with, but also the way she had been living her life. Christine spoke about this transformation in a podcast with Janelle not too long ago. She described how, as her marriage with Kody started to unravel, especially after Robyn joined the family, she had more time to reflect and explore new perspectives. The distance from her old way of thinking allowed her to see things differently. She started recognizing patterns in her relationship, understanding the emotional toll polygamy had taken on her, and realizing that she didn't have to accept things the way they were. The more she opened her mind to new experiences and ideas, the more she saw that there was another way to live, a way that didn't require her to sacrifice her happiness for the sake of an unbalanced marriage. What really changed Christine's worldview? That's something I'm sure she'll explore in her book. But with any book deal, the publisher isn't just looking for a story. They want something compelling, something fresh, something that hasn't already been shared. If this book is going to succeed, it can't just be a rehash of what we've already seen on the show. She's going to have to open up about things we've never heard before, reveal details that add a whole new dimension to her journey. Just like in Becoming Sister Wives, when they shared personal stories about their courtships, weddings, and early days with Kody, things that weren't fully explored in the early seasons, this book will have to deliver new revelations, or people just won't be interested. After all, why buy a book if it's only repeating what's already been aired on TV? With that in mind, the timing of the book's release in September makes me think the show will have wrapped up by then. This book feels like Christine's next big step, not necessarily as a professional author, but as a way to truly break free from her past life. It's a statement, a defining moment where she's putting her old identity as a sister wife behind her and stepping into a completely new chapter. If she's no longer part of a polygamous family, then being on a show about polygamy doesn't really make sense for her anymore. That key phrase in the book's synopsis, her journey toward and beyond her time in the spotlight as a sister wife, says it all. She wants to be known for more than just being Kody's former wife, more than just being part of a plural marriage. She's creating a whole new identity for herself, one that stands apart from the life she used to have. And if you think about it, moving on makes perfect sense. She's remarried now, she has a new husband, and she's focusing on building a future that looks nothing like her past. She's raising her daughter, navigating custody issues, and making sure Kody is handling his responsibilities, like child support. All of these factors point to her slowly stepping away from the show. Honestly, I think this is a huge sign that Sister Wives itself may not have much time left. It's hard to imagine it going on for many more seasons when its original foundation is crumbling. The whole reason people tuned in was to get a glimpse into the dynamics of a man with 4 wives, to satisfy their curiosity about polygamy. But now, that dynamic is nearly gone, and the original premise that made the show so intriguing is no longer there. Without that, how much longer can it really keep people interested? And really, that's what kept people hooked. Curiosity. People wanted to peek inside this unusual world and understand how it functioned. Were they like Warren Jeffs' community? Were the women actually controlled? Was Kody the ultimate authority? Were the kids raised to be obedient little robots for their faith? Were the wives conditioned to keep sweet and serve their husband without question? Or was there more to it? And beyond that, was there real tension, jealousy, and manipulation behind the scenes? These were the questions that made the show compelling. Without those layers, would people have watched? Probably not. The intrigue wasn't just about Kody having multiple wives. It was about the entire dynamic and how it worked, how it failed, and how it affected everyone involved. And now, as that foundation crumbles, what's left? Without polygamy as the driving force, does the show even have a reason to continue? Kody and Robyn alone don't make for compelling television. Their relationship lacks the intrigue and complexity that made the show unique in the first place. If they're expected to carry the series on their own, it's hard to imagine it moving forward successfully. And maybe that's why they keep teasing the idea of adding more wives. The show's contract is built around the premise of a polygamous family, not just a couple. Without more women in the picture, how does it survive? But let's be real. Adding more wives at this stage feels forced and unrealistic. Christine is gone, Janelle is checked out, and Mary has finally moved on. The core of the family is shattered. If Kody and Robyn were serious about expanding their family, wouldn't they have done it by now? Instead, they keep floating the idea, perhaps as a way to keep the audience interested or to keep the network convinced there's still a story to tell. But unless they actually follow through, the show is on borrowed time. And then there's the control aspect. The longer the show continues, the harder it is for these women to fully move on. Kody still has that link to them through the show. He can watch the footage, ask producers about their lives, and keep tabs on what they're doing. That's not true independence. Janelle is now spending a lot of time in North Carolina. Mary has started a new life in southern Utah, and Christine has completely separated herself in northern Utah. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn are in Arizona. They're scattered across 3 states, 4 different locations, and their children are spread out even further. The family unit that once existed no longer does. So, what's really left? The dynamic that made the show work no longer exists. Christine, the wife who challenged the status quo and was open about her struggles, has moved on. Janelle, who once found a way to coexist with Kody, now seems done. Mary, who spent years clinging to a broken relationship, is finally out. And Kody? He's left with one wife, Robyn, whose main storyline is what exactly? That she's struggling because she's not getting what she signed up for? That she's worried Kody won't bring in more wives? It's a weak storyline at best, and it's not enough to carry an entire series. Fans can see the writing on the wall. Without the complexity of multiple relationships, the show loses its entire premise. It's not just about watching a family. Navigate polygamy. It's about watching the unraveling, the choices, the emotions, and the fallout. But now that the dust has settled, what's left to explore? If Kody and Robyn don't shake things up, there's no reason for the audience to stick around. And if Christine's book is any indication, she's making it clear that she has fully moved on. Maybe it's time for the show to do the same. Some of them are in North Carolina, others are in Utah, a few are in Colorado, some are in Nevada, and a couple are still in Arizona. With the kids spread out all over the country, it's no longer about one big family unit. It's become fragmented into smaller pockets of what used to be a family. The idea of them all being together under one roof, or even in the same state, is long gone. It's like the concept of their unity has completely dissolved. Christine is likely choosing to release this book now because, realistically, she wouldn't have been able to do it while still being on the show. If she were to remain on a series about polygamy while openly writing about her departure from it, it would create a contradiction. At some point, staying on a show that promotes a lifestyle you've rejected just doesn't make sense. That could be why this book is her way of officially cutting ties. And honestly, what better way to sever that connection than with a major book deal? Not only does it give her a way to tell her side of the story, but it also provides financial security. With the money from the book, she could invest in properties, bring in rental income, and continue growing her Airbnb business. She's already renting out properties, and David has a steady job. Plus, she's built a substantial social media presence, meaning she doesn't need the show to maintain relevance or financial stability anymore. She's got other avenues now, and I think she's finally ready to step away. It wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing even more signs of her moving on soon. Maybe she'll make an official announcement, or perhaps it will just slowly become clear that she's distancing herself from the show. Either way, it seems inevitable. But what do you guys think? Do you believe she's truly done with the show? Or do you think she might still hang around for a while longer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys!